What did you make of this story when it kind of, came across your desk? Because I mean,
Yeah.
extraordinary story.
Yeah, I thought it was a piece of fiction. I thought it was the weirdest story to set a film around. Honestly, I had no idea who Gloria Grahame was. I certainly didn't know who Peter Turner was at all. So I thought it's just a bizarre work. I don't know how to really wrap my head around it. And I went in to do a bit of a read with Annette, and Barbara was there. It was at Barbara's house. Barbara's our producer. I don't know if we said that. We said that, right? Barbara's our producer, yeah. And we did a few of the scenes, and I looked up and she was crying. And which is always a little disconcerting when you're an actor in an audition kind of scenario. But yeah, but then she told me she told me that that was when she told me that she had known Peter and Gloria when they were together personally. She's been very good friends with Peter for a very long time, and that's when she handed me the memoir, which it was based. And then I went back and read that. It's weird because it's as a piece of material, it was a bizarre concoction. It really was. I can't really stress that enough. But when you see it coming from this guy's perspective, he's so interesting as a storyteller, and this little memoir is so fascinating. I mean, literally, as I was reading this book, it goes from small terraced house in Liverpool, and he turns a page and he's like, "I was in Beverly Hills," and you're like. No. I look back to the pages. Like, there must be pages missing. Like, this memoir must be so old that there's pages missing, and Barbara doesn't know. But that's how he wrote this book. It's all from memory, and that's what I loved about it. Is that there's so much of it that doesn't connect, and it doesn't quite, it's fragmented in that way, and it's all because it's a memory, and a very important memory to this man. This is the most important person who came in and changed his life. Just is. And I love that our script afterward, after reading that, I love that it honored that, and I fell in love with it.
Talking about that, I really want to bring up this extraordinary sequence, towards the sort of the end of the film, the middle of the film, where we see a sequence from both points of view. That's something that's very unusual outside of a kind of a genre piece, or you think of it. It actually kind of feels almost film noir-y in a strange sort of way. I wonder, for you guys, how that scene was to play. I mean, were you doing it as one take or one scene rather, and doing different setups on it, or did you treat it as two separate?
Just as a side note, that idea totally freaked out the producers because it added a whole other day to the schedule because we had to shoot it twice, so they hated that. Yeah. But it's an important reveal for you as a character, I think, more than for me.
Yeah,
really.
And that was Paul McGuigan, the director, who very much wanted to do that idea, and I think that made it very. Because that's not in the book or anything. That was very much Paul's cinematic idea, and so we shot it. I don't even remember. Do we shoot it on different days? Do we shoot that on?
No, they weren't going to give us another day. They were like, "No, you're going to do it in one day."
No, I mean it was very helpful, and that is also an interesting way of thinking about the past, because the past does continue to change, and I find that as we look back on events, we find ourselves focusing on different parts of a moment, and maybe so Paul really wanted to tell the story that way, as a way of trying to get inside of how Gloria thought. And now that I think of it, I was a bit nervous about it because the book is very much, and is the film, from Peter's point of view. Which I love, and I really wanted to try to do that, as the book does, as Jamie describes. The book's beautiful. It's very tasteful. It's a small book. It's not a very literal book. There's a lot of abstractions, and that's what's really great about it. And so the film follows that, except for this time. So the point of view sort of changes, right? So I was. Now that I think of it, I was. And Paul was very clear and very right in his in how he wanted to do that and try to illuminate that part of her, that denial or whatever you want to call it. She had to work. She did keep her illness from people. Her son, her oldest son, who's in the story, he comes in at the end, Tim. That was her. She had 4 kids, and that was her oldest child. And he saw the film when we showed it in London about a month ago. He liked it very much, which meant everything in the world to us. So that was very helpful, having him there. And I asked him about this part of the story, about whether or not she told him. And he had been told, but that at first she kept it from everyone, that she was ill. She didn't want her kids to know. She didn't want the people in the business to know, because she really needed to work and was having a hard time finding work and just making a living. Nobody was giving her any money. She was trying to just scrape by.
Jamie, it's very unusual, I suppose, to play a character. I mean, you've actually done it pretty much twice in a row, because 6 Days is the same story where the real person is alive and around and, you know, on set. I mean, Peter was on set with you, right? So there's an enormous responsibility that comes with that, I imagine. But what was your relationship with Peter like? What did you take from him during production and subsequently?
I mean, he's awesome. He's such a lovely guy. You know, you meet him and you're like, I see why someone like Gloria, who's lived the life that she's lived, would fall in love with him. He doesn't judge anything. He's an open book. I mean, he is someone who says yes to any and all experiences. He's like, do you want to come in and disco dance with me? I just met you. Do you want to come in and disco dance with me? Yes. Do you want to come and live in my trailer park in Malibu? Yes, sure, fine. You know, he's just a yes person. And what I love about the story, the setting of it, is a very specific time. We live in a very different time now, where you meet someone, it's very difficult not to know something about them. We can find out pretty much everything about.
Agreed with that. Oh yeah.
We can find out everything about anybody. You know, whoever we meet, it's very easy to get that information. It really is. But back then, it wasn't possible. Peter had no idea who she was. He couldn't go to even the idea of like a video rental store was like a great concept, like in like the late 70s, early 80s. He had no ability. There was no YouTube. There was nothing. There was, you know. So what I love about Peter is that he loves openly, willingly. He's devoted, and he's a decent guy, and he treats people well. And he gets that from his family, because they're all the same. You know, they took care of this woman. They loved this woman. They didn't judge this woman at a moment when that's exactly what she needed. He's pretty much a great guy. Yeah.